Since the dawn of our democracy, community radio stations have been instrumental in deepening democracy across marginalised communities. Most of their key roles were to allow community participation on various issues relating to development. Joining us to discuss this further is Khumbudzo, who is Minister in the Presidency. Minister, thank you so much for joining us on this Friday night on News at Prime. And I guess it's not just community radio stations, right? It's also community newspapers and community television stations as well. Why are they so important to government as well?
Is because, maybe let me take you back to the reason why the MDDA was formed. It was an acceptance and an acknowledgement that we don't own the media as African communities because of the years of apartheid. And therefore our stories are not narrated, our issues are not conveyed, our artistic abilities are not showcased. And therefore, if you want a citizen that participates, you need to be able to provide them with information. And what does community media do? It conveys or provide the information to the communities in their own languages, but also provide in local information. And what does it also do? It also profiles the creative industry in their locality, which will not get coverage from the likes of Newzroom, SAPC, whatever, the big guys, because they are not yet there. But they can build their own capacity to grow. And in a participatory democracy, you've heard that, and I was a municipal manager once, you've heard that people say, no, we don't know what's in the IDP, we want this, government did not consult. The community media platform provides an opportunity for government to also consult and get feedback from the communities. And like yesterday, we were, a day before yesterday, we were launching Westside FM in Kagiso in the West Rand, in Mogale City. And they were saying they already have an arrangement because the Mogale City municipality and the other local municipalities are going to the IDP phase. And they're going to communicate, they're going to have talk shows on the IDP with participants from the municipality, with listeners coming in and engaging on the IDP and giving feedback. As a result, the municipality have put in community radio programs into their consultation mechanisms, so they can say, we have consulted through this number of community radio shows, and the participation, there was a call-in or there was a debate with stakeholders, representative sectors, and so forth. But also today, including in Westside, today when we're launching the Mutse community radio station, people who were saying we're sponsored, people who funded the building, for instance, of the Mutse radio station, is the National Rural Women's Movement, who built them a state-of-the-art building, and we provided the state-of-the-art studios. And the local businesses, they say the Mushate or the chieftains had donated 10 hectares of land for the building to be in. And the local businesses were competing on who's advertising in the radio the biggest. And they were even complaining, they said, no, your rates are too low, increase the rates. It shows that it adds value in that one. And now we are going to elections. Who's carrying the messages to the communities about these elections? They need to vote, the reminder, in their own languages.
And I think that's the very important part as well, because it's also acknowledging that this country has many official languages, African languages as well, and these messages need to be said and disseminated in these African languages as well. Do you find that, I mean, I think with the MDDA, you've also supported 586 other community media organizations. Do you find that with this kind of support, they're then able to, as you're saying, uplift the surrounding community when you speak of the two radio stations that you launched this week? Yes,
they are able to uplift the surrounding communities. I can tell you, we also went to Mahikeng in December. We launched 2 radio studios in that week also. And the communities, remember, young people are employed as presenters, as news readers. Some people are employed as news gatherers, journalists on the ground, or news verifiers. We are also moving into the stage of digital technologies. Mahikeng FM is streaming live. I can listen to it from here. And that enables the growth of a digital media. But if you're going to do if you go to more especially with radio, majority of your big broadcasters have started in community media and graduated higher. But also in entertainment, majority of big names from rural provinces like Limpopo, where I come from, they were unearthed through community media. They had recorded their song, but and it was played in a community media because you would say the quality does not meet the standard of whatever. But in a community media, they can be given an opportunity. I was laughing with Edmund's FM when I got there, when they were waiting for the interview. They were playing my Yoki Yoki, and it's from my homeboy, a young person from a village that I know. I don't know the person personally, but I said, oh, it means another King Munada is going to rise. And that's how you build, because if that my Yoki Yoki young artist becomes a big name, somebody has to dress him. Who's going to make him clothes? It's going to be a seamstress or a tailor from the local community. And where is he going to promote his music? Also, he's going to promote there. And we're talking about the value that I derive. Like now we've got 22 million listeners collectively over the community radios alone. And when we do media briefings, for instance, I insist that KZ1 must be enrolled as one of the community TVs. They must be linked up. Even now, when we go to the inauguration, we're going to make sure that community media has their own feed for that part. Why is it important to do that? It's because it reaches the people with the locals, not only in their language, but their commentators are people they know. So it's not somebody from the pie in the sky. It's a person who will give an example about the local environment. We were talking even there at Mose today about 30 years of freedom. And they were saying, Minister, you don't have to go far. Look at the Moloto Road. It's a highway. It's better than even the N1. And I said, yes, it is. When we were driving on Moloto Road, and I said, yes, there's still portions that they're building, but there's a portion that is fully done from the Skukune side coming up to Tshwane. And I said to my drivers, why are we stopping? This road is smooth, it's nice, it has lights, it has all sorts of things, and it covers that the cattle does not cross over. And they said, we would not have had this if it was not for democracy. And I reminded them that South Africa is rated 11th globally in terms of the extent of road network that we have, and we are rated 19th globally in terms of the extent of tarred or paved roads that we have. And they said, we are beneficiaries of that.
With that being said, would you say that some of these initiatives, for instance, the West Side FM, community radio station as well, is this government news? Is this a government mouthpiece?
No, it's not a government mouthpiece. Remember the way they're structured, it's a community mouthpiece. And they're not influenced by their advertisers, but they have a responsibility to build for what you call nation building and social cohesion. So there are programs that they must have that build social cohesion. Majority of them will tell you that government does not even go to them. I'm the one pushing that we need to have government programming that educate our people about things that are relevant to them. And I always complain that when we get there, people complain, I'm a mechanic, and I say, I was in small business. Why didn't you apply for funding when I was there? Or even now, why don't you apply for funding? Because they're funding motor mechanics. They're funding plumbers or fitters and turners. They're funding spaza shops. Our people do not know that information. But if community media, both radio and television, can then run those programs and say, these are the initiatives that we have. Because for yourself, as a commercial media, big commercial media, you will not have a program, an hour program that talks about a community development initiative. But community media have the benefit and the luxury of doing that. So they're not a government mouthpiece, but they have a responsibility to communicate information that will build the nations. They don't do government propaganda. We South Africa, we are a democratic and free press environment. Remember, we don't fund them every day. They raise their money through advertisement, through sponsors, through whatever, but they're not allowed to have their sponsors dictating their programs. But they have a component about a nation building and social cohesion, which is important when all broadcasters must be doing it. I'm expecting that Newzroom will be calling out South Africans to go out and vote on the 29th, and on the 29th, you should be running, what do you call it, a strip that says, have you voted? Go out and vote. It's part of your civic duty. So community media, it's for them, the nature of their establishment and their legislation is that civic duty is embedded in their mandate.
But Minister, I also like what you're mentioning, because a lot of them struggle financially, you know, and when it comes to 22 million listeners that you make mention of as well, across the board from radio, community radio station, that's a lot of listeners and a a lot of people who could be receiving a message when they don't receive it sometimes, or be getting experience that they could have benefited them. You're speaking of journalists like myself. I also started at community radio station as well, and it helps you with that experience to be able to then go into mainstream as well. So it definitely does have that role. What is the plan for the existing community radio stations?
So this is what I've said to MDDA, and I told them I will not approve their annual performance plan and the strategic plan for the 7th administration if they don't do, and I'm hoping President Ramaphosa takes me back to my portfolio. Otherwise, he must take me back to small business. I really enjoyed that portfolio. And I was saying, if we just provide the state-of-the-art studios like we did previously, it doesn't change the price of bread for them. We need to do a bit further. We need to say, how do we support them with technology? How do we support them with presenters training, journalist training? And when I was in Northwest in the last 3 weeks and doing, of course, the campaign work for my party, it's declared party, the African National Congress. And we're being interviewed by a community TV. And the line of question, I realized they don't have the training. And I said, but we've got training through NEMISA. And then we said, look, can we provide you the training? Because so that you know what to ask and how to ask it, how to get to your point without, and I was not being, paternalistic. I was just saying, we need to make sure they can come to the standard that you are at and make the right follow-ups. And they accepted it, so we are making arrangements to link them up in the next round of training that NEMISA provides, that they must be trained. But also, outside of the experience is that when I've provided the studios, what's next? And currently, the rules that apply to commercial media, even small-scale commercial media, is not the same as it applies to community media. They are very inhibiting. Yeah. And for instance, if you want to have an advertiser, there must be a limit to what you can raise. You are supposed to literally run the stations with donations, which is very unfair. And I'm saying with a pooled listenership, the commercial media could have a small, stronger advertising pool. So we need to amend that legislation with that. If you fail to apply for a renewal of your license to broadcast, you get given extension to apply. But if a community TV or a community radio gets to miss that deadline, they lose their frequency. And when they lose that frequency, it means somebody is going to benefit from the listenership that was built by somebody. So that's part of the work, the legislative amendments we are doing. So and also, Ntshavheni FM, for instance, today has 100,000 listeners on its own. I think Mahikeng FM has more, 280. Westside has a larger number also. But these are big stations. Ntshavheni FM has 27 years of broadcasting experience. But if they want to progress to become a commercial station, or small commercial station, they are faced with the hurdles of the new entrant. And that's where you come in as government, where you've been trying to assist when it comes to legislation as well. Minister, this is definitely good news, and I wish we could continue our conversation, but unfortunately we have run out of time. Thank you so much for joining us this evening.